This tutorial is about creating AutoCAD title blocks and using attributes. Attributes, for those who've never used them before, are strings of text which are embedded within a block and that are editable. You can see here I've set up a title block. It's an A1. It's just drawn in model space for the sake of me creating it. And I've drawn a very simple little title panel here that has fields for the scale, the date, drawing name, drawing number, and revision. The text you see here is just regular text. What I'm going to do is place attributes inside these little boxes, and those will be editable once the block is placed in Paperspace. To begin here, I'm going to go to the Insert tab on the ribbon and go to Define Attributes. This attribute definition box pops up. Every attribute has to have a tag. You can have an optional prompt if you like, and it's recommended to have a default value. You can choose your text settings, so justification and also the text style. The first one I'm going to create is scale. It won't allow spaces in the tag, so make sure that you don't use spaces there. The default value, something like that, and leaves it open for me to change later. Text height of 2.5 millimeters is probably perfect. And I'll place that. Now, because this is central in the box, I'd like the justification to be centralized. I'll just adjust that in the properties here. So instead of it being justified left, take it to center. I'll move that into position. Once you've created one of these attributes, if you have one similar, it's easy enough just to copy it, which I've done here, and I'll double click on and just change that to being the date. Change the default to a date format. For the drawing name, I'll want something a little different, so perhaps I'll go back here and define again, perhaps a height of 3 millimeters. Drawing name. And this I can copy down for the drawing number. Just remember, I don't have a default here for drawing names, so let me just put some X's in. And then lastly, our revision. So there you have a nice simple little title block. At this point I can go ahead and actually create a block out of it. So back on my home tab, up to blocks and create. This one I'm going to name simply A1. And on selecting your insertion point or your base point, make sure it's the bottom left hand side. Makes it easy for placing then in Paperspace. That's my block done, which I can now safely delete. Let's go through to Paperspace. I'm not going to bother with any layers here, just for the sake of this example. I'll get rid of this little viewport, and at this point let's insert our block. Here's my A1. And for placing it, you can see my cursor is at the bottom left hand side. I'm simply going to type 0, 0, 0 to place it at origin of Paperspace. It's that bottom left hand corner of the print setup. There's the title block, and very quickly what I'm going to do is do a page setup. Just get the print settings correct. Recommend using these full bleed size sheets. Picking a window here to define my plot area. Center the plot, and we'll apply that. And there it is. Zooming in on our little title panel, you can see this has worked successfully. If I double click on the scale here, there's my attribute editor where I'm able to adjust it. And any of these other tags can be adjusted just by clicking on them and then filled in. So attributes, very useful for embedding within blocks, embedding bits of text that you may need to amend once the block is created. One problem with which people do encounter with these attributes is when the block is edited and changed, the attributes don't move position. I'm going to demonstrate now the problem and give you the solution. Into the block editor, let's just say, for example, that I wanted to stretch this panel up. Close and save. Now you'll see that the block has updated successfully, but the attributes themselves haven't moved. Here's how we solve it. Use a command called ATT_sync. ATT_sync. I'm prompted to enter an option. I'll choose select, click on the block. It asks me if I'd like to synchronize, and I'd say yes to that. And you can see the attributes have now popped back into place. So use this little technique if you do amend blocks that have attributes in them. So I hope that's helpful in getting you ready for using attributes.